your mind.
Hello and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
Myself, Stephen George. Very good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday the 2nd of February 2014. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Unfortunately, just to go through the information that we had last week, we said that we'd have the Irish Democratic Party on tonight. But unfortunately, for legal reasons, they couldn't actually come on the show. So they sent their apology and said that when they sort out their legal issues, they will come along and they will have a chat to us on the show and we'll be able to talk to them. So what we've done is we have alternative guests in tonight. But before we talk about that, let's find out what the communication channels are.
Okay, Mary, communication channels, please.
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Thank you, Mary. 046 927 1212. If you're ringing in from outside the Republic of Ireland, it's 00353 469 927 1212. We also have the chat room going as well. If you're listening on our stream, you can just click on the live chat button on the website there on the left hand side. That's oymradio.com. We're also monitoring the chat on the, I can't remember the name now, the People's Internet Radio. People's Internet Radio, sorry. I just had a little memory lapse there for a moment. The People's Internet Radio, so a big hi to all of you as well, and a hi to everyone on our own chat room.
Excellent stuff. Okay, so as we said, we couldn't get the Irish Democratic Party on tonight because of legal reasons. So instead, we've got even better guests on. And that's Tony Zed from a website called Synchronicity. Tony's been on the show before. He's a good friend of OYM. And we're going to be talking to Tony. Plus, we have Miles Johnston. Miles has been on the show before. Great information. Miles takes care of the Basis project. If you go on the YouTube type Basis, he does brilliant interviews with people and finds out fantastic information. Plus, has a massive career in communications and radio and everything else. And also, we have Sharon Gifford, who's an ex-true the People's Voice, which is David Icke's setup. She's an volunteer or employee, I'd say volunteer more than likely, for the People's Voice, and Sharon's going to be on as well. So I'm going to have 3 people on the show tonight, and what we're going to be talking about will be controlled opposition. You know, people that are in the truth movement and they say that they're trying to expose what's going on, but basically they are controlled by the powers that be, and they're pretending to work with us, but they're actually working against us. So we're going to be, basically talking about that. But before we do that, as usual, we have a few things to catch up on which happened during the week. The first thing is, I don't know whether you've seen it, apparently last Saturday, now I don't have RTE, because I'm not rich enough to have a Fairview box, but family member gave me a phone call and said, did you see that Saturday show with Brendan O'Connor? There was 2 survival experts on it, and they were dressed in fatigues, and they were talking about the sheeple, and the sheeple mentality, and the fact that because something like of a natural, maybe weather conditions naturally hasn't happened, doesn't mean it won't happen. And they were talking about being prepared, which is what we've said before on the show. Have some stock of food, have some shelter, and obviously heat as well. Very important, and loads of water. Because you never know what's going to happen. And if you look at the weather conditions at the moment we're experiencing in Ireland and in the UK and globally, these people are getting flooded out of their homes, and it's just unbelievable what's going on. The snow over in America. Steve, you've seen the footage of the snow in America where they can't even burn it. They can't, they're trying to burn the snow and melt it, and it wouldn't even burn.
Yeah, I actually have that down, and I wanted to mention that. I watched loads of different videos, and even there's a lady, I can't remember her name now, but she's a reverend. Do you know her? A reverend? She's a reverend. She's a lady. She's in a wheelchair, but she does broadcasts as well, internet broadcasts. And she done a piece about it. Loads of other people, lay people if you like, have done pieces on this snow. And I even noticed yesterday, my children were looking out with the snow falling yesterday morning here, and they noticed that the flakes were very big. And I remember the youngest lad, he's 7, and he was saying, Daddy, look at the snowflakes, they're huge, and they look more like leaves falling than actual snowflakes. It was kind of strange. But yeah, we've seen some videos on the net of people who are bringing in the snow from outside. I don't know where this originated from, but they tried to burn the snow, and it wouldn't burn. It wouldn't melt. Sorry, it wouldn't melt because when they put a lighter to it, I think they were squeezing it as well, there was no water being left deposited underneath the snow. They couldn't even compact it properly. And two of the videos actually comment when they tried to burn the snow, melted. It didn't actually melt. It just burned and kind of turned black, and there was a distinct smell of burning plastic / burning rubber. Now, depending on what video you watch, people are kind of saying they're talking about globules. I knew I wouldn't make that word. I know.
That's very easy for you to say, isn't it?
Yeah, there's these globules in the sky, and they're connected to chemtrails and chaff and bits of aluminium, and they're saying that this is kind of something to do with this snow. But yeah, it's definitely well, it's not real, it's not natural, it's not it's man-made snow.
It's geoengineering.
Yeah,
this is what they're saying,
yeah.
and basically the stuff that's in it. Pretty bad by the look of things. But if you haven't seen it, go on YouTube later and type in snowfall over in the States and have a look at these people. All people around America trying to actually melt this snow and it's not melting. So it's definitely very strange. But again, the whole survival thing, these guys mentioned about having backup. And one of the things they mentioned, and we've said it before, about CB radio. Either amateur radio or CB radio, have a form of communication. You remember the Carrington effect. Well, people don't remember it, but they talk about the Carrington effect in 1859, where it blew out all the telegraph poles. We mentioned this a couple of weeks ago about there was a massive coronal ejection from the sun in 2012, and had it hit the planet, it would have been worse than 1859. Now, the smaller ones that have happened, and they are saying that it's not a case of if, but a case of when. So, look, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So be prepared and have something as a backup. Even a few weeks, at least you can sort something out. But it was very interesting all the same. But Steve.
Yes. Speaking of T-shirts.
What are we speaking of T-shirts? Okay.
Speaking of T-shirts.
That's a good link there.
Isn't it just? Yeah, just slid it right in. Yeah, anyone who's a regular listener will know that we had sent the design off to the printers because we wanted to get some more T-shirts in. So people could go around and advertise the station that is OYM and all the good work that we do. And yeah, the design was sent off to the printers, but unfortunately there was a glitch, a technical error / glitch at the printers, and it didn't turn out quite as we hoped. And I spoke with Alan during the week, and I'm sure you won't mind me saying this, but he wasn't a very happy camper because he had worked painstakingly on the design, and the design is beautiful actually. But it just didn't materialise at the printer. So he had a word with the printer, and it has gone back. It's going to be redone again, and it's going to, when we get them back, there will be a short delay, but we will have them back, and it's going to be, well, worth the wait anyway.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as they come in, we'll keep you posted, and obviously they'll be available on the shop for purchasing, just to help, with donations for OYM. That would be great. Now, I got a letter from John Poulton this week asking me about asking me to pay the property charge. Actually, it wasn't from John Poulton, it was the Inland Revenue, but the same thing.
Michael Gladney and Josephine. Michael Gladney and Josephine Feely. Yes,
Michael.
Josephine Touchy Feely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So basically, I mean, the difference between the Mafia and the Inland Revenue is that the Mafia have ethics and a code of practice, and the Inland Revenue don't. So basically, like most people in the country, we will be sending letters back and asking them to, provide the evidence why we should pay this. A kind of car lens thing. Why should we pay it? Show us the law, show us the contract, and give me a letter in blue ink, signed in blue ink, rather than this computer-generated letter that you're sending out. And I think the choice rule might apply to this as well. I don't know, but ask them 3 times for the information. If they don't give it to you, then you can, basically say, go away, don't deny me.
Yeah, a lot of those letters actually went out during the week. My father got one, and my father-in-law. Now, I'm guessing it's the same one you got. I believe it's a bog standard letter. And I think Mr. Gladney, his signature, well, his name appeared at the bottom of it, but it wasn't signed. It was unsigned.
But they won't be signed because they'll be committing fraud if they sign it.
So anyway, there's a group here that was set up in Ireland a while back called attackthetax.com. And they're doing good work, and they have template letters that people can use as a reply. Obviously, you don't have to print out the letter and use it. You can write it out in your own handwriting. but it's just basically saying that send it back and say you're involved. Well, anyone who is involved in attacks, that you let them know that litigation is, it's in. I think it's in the High Court now at the moment. They're waiting on a date for the Supreme Court, something like that. Anyway, sorry, I'm probably getting it back to front. But what they're saying is, use the template letter and just send it back to say you're involved in this, and they've refrained from contacting you any further. And they're also suggesting that you send a copy of the letter to your local Garda station that will be considered your police station, and just to let them know and keep them tuned in as well. So if they do communicate with you again, I'm guessing, because in the letter they did suggest that they may send a sheriff. Well, it was, yeah.
That's right, yeah.
They mentioned the sheriff. Well, I haven't seen a sheriff since I watched Little House on the Prairie.
I'm expecting somebody to turn up on a horse with
a
badge.
And a pointed star and those little pointy yokes on the back of his boots.
Exactly, yeah.
And
so
you'll open the door and he'll tip us, huh? Howdy, Pilgrim. Hey,
Sheriff!
I'll be Sheriff!
Yeah, have to get me banjo out. Anyway, how's your week?
My week's fine. I was going to mention the snow, because I don't want to waffle on, but I was going to touch on about the snow, but we've already done that. The only other thing that I seen, and I'm going to I popped it in the chat box earlier, and I'm going to pop it in our own chat box there now, and I'm going to go to the People's Internet Radio. I'm going to just paste it in there as well for you guys. And it was a little link that I seen. Where's on it's the Truth Seeker website. And it just says the Queen's arrest is imminent, and there's a huge article there. It goes into, well, there's loads of information on it, but it's basically saying that, what all the paedophile stuff that's been kind of going around the past couple of years, the rumours, and also with the arrests and all, they're saying that Queen Elizabeth of the UK, that her arrest is imminent. She's already been found guilty, allegedly, and there's a warrant out for arrest. And they say also, it's ex-Royal Military Policeman Matt Taylor, who lives in Birmingham. He's the one who's kind of behind this. He also says that Mr. Ratzinger, the former Pope, that an arrest warrant was served on Ratzinger, and he immediately resigned from office. Now, is it true? I don't know. As we say, everything we have here is it's other people's opinions and may not reflect ours. But it's a good article if you want to read it. It is posted in the two chat boxes there, so it's well worth a listen. And other than that, now, sure, my week was just the same old, same old. How's yours?
Yeah, not too bad. I just want to talk about the article, really, about the two whistleblowers in the Garda Síochána. As you know, people in Ireland, if you've watched the mainstream media, there was two whistleblowers saying about the massive corruption that's actually in the Garda Síochána, which is the Irish police. And what Alan Shatter has done, who's the Minister for Defence, isn't he, Alan Shatter?
Yeah.
I think he is.
Yeah, he is.
Or Alan Bling Bling Shatter, because he was the guy that said that if you can't afford anything, sell your jewellery and sell your wedding rings to pay for your property taxes and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we call him Alan Bling Bling Shatter. Basically, he's gone and buried the actual whistleblowers. Instead of, patting the guys on the back and saying, thanks for revealing this information, we're going to investigate and find out what's going on, he's buried it in the Garda Ombudsman. And the Garda Ombudsman, according to the mainstream media, were people who are getting points taken off for various bits and pieces. So the whole system is corrupt to the core. It's just complete corruption. And I don't know how guards who are honest guards can stop people and turn around and say, oh yeah, your taillight is out, or your tire's a bit bald, or you're not wearing a seatbelt. With that level of hypocrisy in the system, when we blatantly know that these people are getting away with blue murder and screwing the system, and they want all the people, Joe Public, to do what they say, not what they do. And it's just complete hypocrisy as far as I'm concerned. You lose complete respect for the police force. Now, I know there's good police out there. I know there's good Gardaí out there. But unfortunately, guys, people are going to lose complete disrespect. There'd be complete disrespect for the whole system, because we know what these guys at the top are doing. So, these guys need to be congratulated for coming out and being whistleblowers. Instead, they're going to be attacked by the system, and they're going to be pushed into the Ombudsman. And I hope that when we have the Irish Democratic Party on, that's something that we will talk to them about and say, what's the story, what's going to go on, what's going to happen to them, and is there anything we can do about it. So really, really bad news for it. Fair play to the guys for doing it, but our corrupt system, as I say, I put a photo up on Facebook of a banana in the colour of an Irish flag, and the person got it straight away, Banana Republic, you know. But so that was that during the week, and just very quickly, next Saturday we have the United We Strike Radio Marathon. As usual, every second of the month we have an international radio marathon, and we have loads of guests on, loads of information. So if you have time, then tune in next Saturday, and we'll be doing the marathon. I'll probably, more than likely, be doing some production. And myself and Steve will probably have our show on at 7 p.m. I think we normally have our show on for half an hour as well, so we'll probably be talking on that as well. So there you go. So that's the information my week. Now, before we get our guests on, I'd just like to say we have a little disclaimer, as you probably all know, that the opinions of our guests are not necessarily the opinions of OYM or me and Steve. So that's just a little disclaimer, because you know, we don't know what we're going to be talking about, but it's going to be fun, whatever way we see it, I think. So, but it's always good to throw that in, because we're supposed to be kind of sitting on the fence. So, you know, it's always good to say that. Now, the guest that we have, as we said earlier, is Tony Z from Synchronicity. Great website, loads of information, a good friend of OYM. We have Miles Johnston, who does the Bases Project. Fantastic interviews on YouTube. Great interviews, great information, and also an expert in communications, and have been in the radio industry for a very long time. And then we have Sharon Gifford, who is an ex-volunteer, or I wouldn't say employee, I'd say volunteer of the People's Voice, which is David Icke's project. So good evening, everybody. How are you doing?
Hello. Not too bad.
Hi.
Great stuff. Okay, listen, Tony, we'll start off with you. Obviously, what we said tonight is we're going to be talking about controlled opposition, because we know there's people out there who are pretending to be on our side and being part of the truth movement and everything else. But time and time again, we've come across these people who've been exposed, and we found out that they're actually controlled opposition. They're being paid by the powers to be to infiltrate, find out what's going on, and break people apart and create arguments and destroy people. So where shall we start, Tony? What's the best place to start with this?
Well, it's a very big topic, and there's lots of different areas as usual. Let's look at what possible controlled opposition could be. It could be somebody who doesn't know better, and he's telling people to do something because they simply don't know any better. But you know, so that would be a type of controlled issue by somebody not being equipped with the right information, but being equipped with the ill information. Let's say in the case of like a doctor, who's been told about pharmaceutical drugs and not been taught anything about natural medicine, would be, you know, a form of controlled opposition against the people in that way. Do you understand that point of view?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
There's other people that know better and that deliberately want to misinform people in order to stop them looking at the real facts. So that's another form of controlled opposition, whereby, you know, somebody really knows the truth, but they don't want to talk about that. They'd rather talk about something else over here. Oh, look, your house is on fire. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Creating a ruckus in one particular area. So the masses look at the person that's creating the ruckus and look at the information that they're putting out, whilst somebody's driving away with all the contents out of their house in the other direction. In other words, they're getting diverted off the actual truth.
It's the sleight of hand, the magician's trick. You know, you're watching one hand while the other hand's doing something else.
Absolutely, totally. And the beauty of this is that once you actually spot the modus operandi and you can see through it, you can then apply the same model to lots and lots of other things, lots of other topics, lots of other issues, lots of other areas, and lots of other, government whips and, these types of things, and lots of institutionalization. Very interesting.
Okay, brilliant. And Miles, what's your take on or your experience with controlled opposition?
Well, I think we have to be very careful, because a lot of us have been stimulated into or fanned into a fear thing, and I want to address this. And I know it's something that Tony's been talking about, because there is a syndrome. And it's one of the standard attack syndromes to break up anything that's successful. I've seen it in the UFO business. I've seen it, I call it a eulogy in some cases, but there is a tendency, and it's in the crop circles and things, where basically we all stand around in a circle and point at each other saying, you work for the FBI or CIA or something. And it is a syndrome which is very damaging. And I think we have to be careful that we don't do that, because people can be unwittingly spreading disinformation or be part of counterintelligence. The Truth Movement was set up by the CIA to specifically suck in all the people who had spotted the errors and problems of 9/11 and then basically waste their time. And I think that may be something we can discuss about, a subject that we're talking about later this evening. But I think, it's easy to throw mud, and I'm as guilty as that as anybody. But I think we need to try and make sure that there are definite issues which can be answered. But at the same time, it's funny how WikiLeaks never wanted to touch the UFO thing and never wanted to touch 9/11. And that, that's a very important question. And I know, that some people have been given information about 0-point energy and they don't want to touch it. Perhaps maybe they should give a good answer to that. But I think we all are going to have to rapidly start ramping up our awareness and trying to get others to come with us. And we're going to have to start doing this offline, because it's now becoming so dangerous. But anyway, that's my view so far.
Okay, well, just getting back to you on certain subjects. I mean, at OYM, myself and Steve, there are some certain subjects that we don't touch purely because we don't know enough about them. And they're not our strong point, and there's other people doing it anyway. So there's no point duplicating something that somebody else is doing. So I think that's one of the reasons why maybe some people...
Yes.
Some people mightn't do it because somebody else is doing it. And it could be as simple as that. It could be, as innocent as that. But Sharon, I want to bring you in there. Sharon, you're an ex-volunteer. I'd probably put down to you a volunteer for the People's Voice. And what's your experience based regarding controlled opposition?
The way that I feel about controlled opposition is, I think, first of all, you are in a situation, and obviously the first question is, am I in fear? Am I in love? Am I in my power in this situation? Okay. And of course we always need to be working from love. So if there's fear, if there's some kind of fear around, then obviously that would be a warning bell, I would have thought, to everybody. Again, I think Miles did touch upon it. Suppression of information. If you become aware, and Tony, of course, if you become aware that information is being suppressed, again, that would need to be, I feel, another alarm bell. I think we do need to listen to that still small voice, listen to our intuition. And I think we need to be aware of Pied Pipers and that whole Pied Piper scenario. Mm-hmm.
Definitely, I have to agree with you there. We have to be careful. And who we listen to, and we have to discern. Discernment is very important. Now, we can only go by what we hear unless we're, really involved with a situation and we have first-hand information. We can only go by what we hear. So, and we, OYM are the same. Myself and Steve are no different. We hear information and we feel that, it resonates with us. It might be, we might talk about it on the show, and then we find out that the following week or 2 weeks later that it's actually, wasn't true, or it was, some information that was disseminated by somebody. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. As John Irwin said to us time and time again, if you put the truth into a barrel full of lies, it's going to be very hard to find it. And you have to use whatever. I think at the end of the day, you have to, when you go into the truth movement and you're reading information, you have to see what resonates with you. And that's all you can really do unless you have a first-hand experience. But Tony, just going back to you, there's a couple of things that you said you wanted to talk about tonight in the show. So do you want to kind of take us into that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's based on, a bit like Sharon's information, really. It's based on experience. I ended up in a situation last week that was very interesting. It's not something I ever intended to be in, that situation. It just happened. And I ended up actually being in a position whereby I could talk directly, or we talked directly with David Icke for about 20 minutes in the offices of TPD. And it was a very interesting experience. I've put up a post about it on Synchronicity. You won't miss it. It's got the People's Voice logo on it. But yeah, I ended up going to a meeting with some other individuals to meet a person that we'd met in the past, and I've also done information on, released information, and so have you, Alan, about Seven.
That's
we
right.
actually went to meet Seven.
Yeah, no, well, we had Seven on the show, and the week before Seven was due to come on, as you know, Tony, I had 2 antennas stolen and the actual broadband maliciously cut, which was a bit of a pointless exercise because being a kind of an IT person, it was up and running in a couple of hours. But obviously, I don't think it was anything more sinister than somebody personally in the local area maybe just having a grudge, and that's what they did.
Okay. You would have to couple that with several other experiences on the same situation, because at one point we were attempting to get basically we'd already organised for Seven to go on a channel that's called QLP Media. And Seven and Tony were sitting there waiting to go. The QLP Media's mainframe computers went down, and their systems all got attacked by viruses, and we never even made it on air that night or the night after in the end. So that show was completely scuppered. And we also had problems on Blog Talk at certain times as well with getting information across and interference on the signals. So, fair few coincidences. Plus, the information that we released was very, very, very solid stuff. Yeah. It had gone through the law courts. It had gone through the mill backwards for nearly up to 10 years. And, it's still come out, and the case was found in Seven's favour by the High Courts. There must be a reason for that. The reason is that the information that was provided was rock solid.
It was. And the interview that we did with Seven, the information for people who are interested, if you go to our archive podcasts, obviously you have to register for free on the site, but you can get into the archive podcast. You can download that interview that we did with Seven, and the information was mind blowing. What she exposed. But I'm going to go over to Miles for a minute there, Tony. Miles, in the actual controlled opposition side of things, what's your discernment? What do you look for? And have you, in your experience and the years that you've been involved with this, can you give us an example of what you've seen or you would class as a technique used by these people?
Well, I think Sharon said it. Trust your heart. Your first initiative, the very first fraction of a second that you deal with somebody or an event or you hear something, that is what you've got to try and grab onto. I think that fundamentally the mainstream conspiracy side of things is effectively controlled opposition, and I'm going to have to nail my colours to the mast here. I have a great deal of respect for the people and the People's Voice, and I really do feel that those people, so many of them are really dedicated and wonderful people. But I said it when I first went in there, when the recruitment thing, I said, you have been infiltrated. And the response I got was, shall we say, as if they knew already but didn't want to do anything about it. And there's 2 problems, or possibly 3 problems. You've got a bunch of people who start something up because they're very dedicated and want to get the message done, and they're going to be, it's their toy, it's their creation, and they don't want anybody else to go in and muck it up. You've also got the children problem where it's not a problem, it's just a natural thing that, it's their life, their experience, and they don't want to hear anybody else tell them how to do it. So they need to experience things themselves to be able to understand it. And that's very important. So, you can see a child putting his hand into the flames. But until that person actually experiences the pain of their hand going into the flames, they're not going to believe that the flames are dangerous.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. And so you've got natural human characteristics which are already built into us to screw things up to start with. It doesn't mean that there's a conspiracy. As Einstein probably never said, a pen is just a pen. But I do feel that when they have been told, and when people in a particular group or organization have been made, they've been warned about things, other people have been telling them, look, this is whatever, and they continue to ignore that information, you then have to start thinking quite seriously, look, are these guys really the real deal or not? And I think you've got to give people the benefit of the doubt, but when that doubt is continually, when the weighing scales start tipping, you've then got to say, look, really, maybe there's something really quite not as advertised about a particular thing.
Yeah.
And I think the way that the People's Voice has handled things at this early stage has been amateurish and basically fundamentally flawed, is that you don't wash your dirty linen in public. I have been online advertising for £24 million with my friend Anna Hess, and we came up with that figure because the fundamental thing is that there is no point, as you said in your opening address, there's no point telling all the conspiracy people all the stuff they know already. We already know about this stuff.
Yeah.
There is no point preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
And to give David Icke credit, when he stood up on stage asking the volunteers to volunteer, he said, yes, there will be a core team who are going to be paid, which is fair. You're going to have to do that somehow. And he also said that it's got to appeal, it's got to be a high quality programming issue, which has got to appeal to ordinary people. It's got to appeal to mainstream. Otherwise, what's the point? Now, I don't actually think that that's possibly translated into reality as things stand at the moment. The point is that when a lot of people are focused and dedicated on doing something, they can make mistakes. They naturally can mess things up. And I think if you're not the skilled management type of team that you need, you're going to screw things up. And I think they've screwed things up. My personal experience with David Icke is that he won't speak to me. He will rotate 180 degrees as soon as I walk in there and not say a word. Now, I mean, he's got his reasons for that. I understand that he's a bit of an Asperger's thing, that holding conversations with people is a bit of a difficulty for him on that. So I'll give him that. But I'm going to nail my colours to the mast, and I do believe, looking back at things, I do believe that based on the way the BBC works, the way the BBC chooses people that they're going to have on or not have on, I do believe that David Icke was launched by the BBC as official controlled opposition. Okay. And I feel that the way that the Terry Wogan programme was, the way that he was produced and put on, and Terry Wogan's function at the BBC with children in need and things like that, I really do feel that actually we've all been pretty well conned in terms of David's production to the general public on mainstream television on prime time. And I think he's been planted to be controlled opposition. However, I've said very clearly that the People's Voice type of a station with a dedicated bunch of volunteers and people has got to succeed. I know that David's been, I think, pulled back from the People's Voice. I think that's an Ofcom thing. I have worked for Rupert Murdoch, for 21 years. That doesn't mean that everything that Sky TV did was the evil Beelzebub of all existence, because it was run by Rupert Murdoch, who has been essentially the whipping boy of anybody that opposes anything that comes out of the BBC. So I think we have to be very careful in terms of who's really controlling what. And it's been very easy to say, "Oh, evil Murdoch, the monopoly," as it was explained on BBC Radio 4 one morning, that the net amount that in the UK, the BBC is something of the region of about 90% of all news that people get in the UK is BBC controlled or sourced.
Yeah.
With a microcosm of news coming from Sky and a microcosm coming from people like ITV. And the BBC did not like that to be said about them. They did not like that one bit. So the BBC's been the elephant in the room in terms of control of your consciousness. And there's a lot of other things involved there, which I'm not really sure I should go into. But the bottom line is that the People's Voice has been given public money to produce television, to produce things. And, Rupert Murdoch wasn't coming in every bloody 5 minutes and saying his opinion about this sport or this particular news item. And I think, I could be wrong about this, that David foolishly and should not have had this slagging match with a particular journalist who was involved there. The issue of where people were volunteers, there was, I believe, and I've made this clear internally, and maybe me saying this right now is being hypocritical, that you have a situation where some people were more equal than others, straight out of the 1984 situation. Now, I do believe that has been corrected. And, these people are working really hard. There's people there haven't seen their family for like 8 weeks. But that is the point. The question still has to be raised. Is the People's Voice simply a way of getting dedicated volunteers and good people who are well-intentioned to simply misdirect their efforts? Because I've made it very clear that I feel that the primary source that was the highest single priority that the People's Voice required was a secure delivery system, which they didn't have. They did not have secure servers. They didn't have a secure website. That's why it was hacked, possibly, very probably from inside things, people in there. And, when you've got a bunch of volunteers, there's a lot of backstabbing and people who are the rumors. And that's what the infiltration was in the first place. Now, if the goals as stated by Ike and the People's Voice are achieved, I support that, in that high-quality programming, not run on a huge budget at all. The ability to put that studio together with the money that they've got and the way it was put together by those people is a supreme effort. And they need to be supported, and they need to be, that's been achieved. They need to be applauded. Now, ultimately, what happens in the long run, if what comes out of the wash, we have to see whether it works. People are saying hotels and stuff like that about that building. I understand they only got a year's lease in there. But that effort, those people need to be supported. And I don't want to be undermining the efforts and work and dedication that people have put in there.
Yeah.
The point about all creative media organizations at the start, it's a bloodbath, okay? And there are going to be a lot of consequences. There are going to be a lot of people hurt. There's going to be a lot of things said that shouldn't be said. And that should all be kept internally. And again, I'm probably being hypocritical by even talking about it like this.
Well, no, I totally agree with you, because as somebody who's worked in the corporate world and the media, and advertising myself, I know exactly where you're coming from. But what I'd like to do, Miles, is to bring Sharon in there, because Sharon was an ex-volunteer on. And by the way, we're not kind of pointing fingers at David and his team or the People's Voice for any other reason than the fact that you have knowledge and being involved in the People's Voice, and we're not making any implications in any way. We're just having a general conversation about your own experiences in it. So I'd like to, because for myself, when David started off, I mean, it was the book, The Biggest Secret, that really opened my mind up. And Steve, I think it was the same for you, wasn't it? I think David...
I seen some of his videos. I think you shared some of his videos with me, and that opened for me. Yeah,
that was a big help. So Sharon,
yes, yeah, absolutely. Now, I have to sorry, Sharon. David Icke. If it hadn't been for David Icke, we wouldn't even be talking like this. So let's give him support in that regard.
Yeah, totally.
All the other details. Okay, Sharon. Sorry, I'll leave you be.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Okay. I mean, I can only tell you my experiences. First of all, I was brought in, as I explained on my blog, I was brought in by a friend who was being bullied at the People's Voice to assist Sonia Poulton. Now, obviously various machinations went on. Really, I just want to talk about perhaps the last week that I was there. And the experiences I had, and and then of course we'll discuss them, I suppose. Is that okay with everybody?
Well, that's okay with me. Tony?
Yeah, fine. I mean, that's part of the reason for...
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Sharon, yeah. Did we ever meet in there?
I've got no idea, Miles.
All right, okay, so...
Miles was the good-looking guy.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so what happened was on the Sunday, which I'm not sure of the date, I received an email from Pie and Mash Films, from, of course, Bill Maloney, who had an article in the Sunday Express that Sunday, regarding Andrew, a survivor of sadistic state child abuse. He was asking for a contact number. Now, I knew that Mark Windows did not want to speak to Bill Maloney. So, however, I immediately Facebooked Richie Allen asking him for his phone number. He messaged me back, told me he did not have the number. So I was kind of, I didn't know what to do, unfortunately, as far as that story from Bill Maloney went, which is an amazingly, I mean, the actual interview that came out with that with Lou Collins, I believe, on the radio is such a powerful interview and is a story that is a huge story and, of course, deserves to be told. Now, on the Monday, I went into work and there was no Windows on the World show because the team, who are Richard Rowland, Larry and Happy, and myself and Mark Windows, were to get to know each other. Now, there was a story called The Ocean is Broken, which is concerning a yachtsman who travelled from Melbourne to Osaka to San Francisco by boat. And it was his experience, I believe, in the Newcastle Herald in New South Wales. It was his experiences of this trip. It was a really powerful story. There were photographs. There was a journalist, Greg Ray, who I got in touch with. He passed my email on. The story was approved, or so I understood, and I was asked to phone up Ivan McFadden, who's the yachtsman, and ask him to be awake at 4:00 in the morning and to have the call. I actually had to phone him up. He actually did get up at 4:00 in the morning twice on that last week, on the Tuesday and on the Friday, and both times he was not included in the show and was not told until the last minute. Now, as well as this, so running beside that, another contact gave my details to Tony Zed, yeah?
Yep.
And also at the time, I actually did manage to get a phone number from Richie Allen for Pie and Mash Films, but this number I found out later was the wrong number. Okay. Now, Tony Zed gave me some links to a story that he thought TPV, the People's Voice, might find interesting. I sent those links straight across to Richard Rowland, and a report was printed up from that link. And I went home. I didn't watch the show because I had to come home, because I do have a home. And later that evening, Tony was, he was actually quite upset with me because he felt that his work had been hijacked, because of course he'd not been credited for his work. And, you know, he wasn't very happy, with that. So the next day I went in and I asked Mark Windows and Richard Rowland about plagiarism. And Mark Windows said, "Oh, you mean copyright infringement?" And I said, "No, I mean plagiarism," which is, you know, obviously not crediting somebody properly for the work. Liz Roberts spoke to Mark and Richard, and they assured her that the printed report had not been looked at or referred to. And Tony, I believe, offered another story, but I was told by Richard Rowlands to pass Tony's Skype details directly over to Richard, so I don't know anything further about that.
Okay, well, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, if any of the members of the People's Voice ever wanted to come on, or even David, we've been asking David to come on the show for a while. We're more than happy to have David on and, you know, tell us about his opinion, because they're allowed to have their opinion as well on what they feel.
Of course.
But we have a few questions come in from our listeners, so we're going to throw out the questions to the three of you, depending on who they're for, and then we'll just kind of throw them around there. Steve?
Okay, first question, and this one is for Sharon. It's from 26 on our own website, and he's wondering, can you ask Sharon what David Icke is like in real life? Is he a grumpy, aggressive, controlling control freak? And he's also wondering, why did you leave?
What David is like in real life? Oh yeah, he's a grumpy, aggressive control freak. He's a narcissist. Yeah. I think I've.
But sure, who isn't?
Him on my blog.
Who isn't?
I'm not.
What?
I'm not. Just do what you're told.
Yeah.
I don't know, Miles. You've met David. Miles?
And he's saying nothing about it either.
Well, that's the problem. I haven't met David.
Oh, okay.
David refused to meet me, say anything to me at all. He would actively rotate and not look, engage, or visually see me at any time I was in there. I mean, I still might be going in there. I've got a lot of time for Liz Roberts. She's worked very furiously to keep, you know, as a program controller, I can appreciate the kind of pressure she's under. She's almost lost her marriage on this thing. And I think the kind of things which are being done are basically unprofessional, amateurish, and there is an agenda there. But you're going to get that. I'm afraid that Mark Windows and I... Yeah, no, but I'm afraid Mark Windows and I don't see eye to eye. And I know that he had my former colleague Joanne on his show because she's on many levels, very mesmeric person, literally. And she's captured Mark. This is beyond serious on the levels that we're talking about. In terms of control of people.
Well, we're going to touch. We will touch base on that because we know
you stop me from waffling. Okay.
Sorry, yeah. I'm just I want to try and pass it around because I know we've limited time, but we will touch base with you on that quickly regarding that because I know you had your own experiences with Joanne, and I'm sure you want to just kind of give it.
Well, basically, the experience of David Icke is David would not speak to me. would not encounter me, and he operated through a number of other people who he did brief, who then came to me and did things. And I was with the health show, but that in itself had its own issues because things are being pulled, things are happening in the background. People who've done a lot of hard work are suddenly finding that things are being put in their way, and there's a lot of disingenuous activity going on there.
Yeah. Okay, and Tony, I think I don't think you've ever met David, have you?
Yeah, as I just said.
Oh, yeah, sorry, you did last week, yeah.
Yeah, we spent 20 minutes with him talking about Seven's case and about how this particular case was one of the most important cases that had ever been, as far as we were concerned, it's one of the biggest stories that the People's Voice has ever published and would, bring in massive amounts of interest because the case is so solid.
Yeah.
And so we spent time with Seven there with David Icke for, like I say, about 20 minutes. Sitting down, having a really good chat, having a really good conversation with him. He was very reasonable. In fact, he was brilliant. He wasn't just reasonable, he was great. Again, the whole situation occurred spontaneously, and I wasn't even there at that point to have a meeting with David. I was there to meet somebody else, but the whole situation just unfolded like the universe was in control, and it was going to happen.
Brilliant.
But we just sat there. We got across the information to David. We explained the case and what was involved, how important it was, and how much of a big deal this was. And we basically said, well, look, if the People's Voice is really for the people and a voice for the people need to know about this case because it's awesome.
Definitely. Just a quick question for Sharon. We just had a request there in the chat room, Sharon. You obviously have left TPV. Is there any reason why you left?
The reason I actually left was because I was exposed on a blog entitled The Muppet Show. My real name was on there. The person who wrote the blog had been, I felt, treated very unprofessionally by the People's Voice, and I felt that enough was enough in that.
Right. So you just took your own stand and your morals and all that kind of stuff. Okay, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
Steve, you got more questions there?
Yeah, I think Miles may have already given his opinion on this, but I'll just throw it out there. I think this question is for everyone. It comes in from Jerry. Jerry's wondering, is the People's Voice controlled opposition or not, in your honest opinion?
Yes, absolutely, totally. Start to finish, set up to fail, misinformation. Yes, indeed.
Okay, and Steve, you going to say something there?
No, I was just going to say Tony.
No, Tony. Your opinion, Tony?
Well, this is where it gets a little bit more complicated because we were treated brilliantly. Well, we were taken in there. We were shown around the People's Voice. It was totally totally spontaneous. We sat down with cups of coffee and we had a chat with Liz and we had a chat with some of the other reporters there. Everybody was really nice, really polite, and it was a pleasure to experience that environment. And as I said, towards the end of that, we were leaving, and so was David. And one of the team piped up, "Well, can we have 5 minutes with you, David?" And he graciously gave us 20. So, yeah, everything was beautiful. As for my experience there, my interaction with the people and my interaction with David in particular was great. It was really, really, I was impressed. The trouble started, however, the day after. And that's where this whole story takes a twist. And that's the bit I was hoping to get to in a bit, and we can do.
I mean, we will do. But do you think, with David being attacked so many times with people, he just has kind of come to the end of his tether and just he kind of the end of his rope, and he's just kind of saying, look, I'm being who I am, and this is who I am, and you either like me or you don't like me, and I've been attacked so many times, I'm just on my guard all the time. I'm not defending David, but I can understand that with the amount of years that David's been on the scene and he's been attacked so many times, he's going to put up a barrier and he's going to be a certain way. Go ahead, Sharon.
David Icke being attacked. I mean, I think we all live a life. We're all attacked to a certain extent on different levels. And I find the People's Voice and David Icke to actually be attacking of other people, which was in fact why I was called in there in the first place.
Right, okay. Well, I mean, I can understand from a certain point of view. I know David worked in the TV industry. He was a broadcaster for Sky. And, but...
No, he was the BBC.
BBC, sorry. But
yeah.
From working from a corporate point of view myself, you know, people in that position doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be good managers and know how to manage staff and how to manage a business.
Well, yes, I mean, that's exactly my point. I think that they've got a lot to learn in that regard, and they're making a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they can't be shot for that. Ultimately, the people, I think the people have to make sure that the people's voice delivers and what their promise of performance is. And when we start arguing about people's personalities and all sorts of things like that, in other words, at the moment, I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. I hope that the whole thing succeeds. I think that at this sort of stage, there are, I mean, believe that things at Sky when it started was blood on the carpet every day. The level.
Excuse me,
yeah.
Miles. You've just said blood on the carpet. Earlier, you referred to bloodbath. I'm not exactly sure to which you're referring to, but I'm not sure about that terminology, and I'd just like to point that out. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I'm talking about people losing it and screaming at each other, and it was very stressful in those early days at Sky. So I can see how it could happen there.
Well, I don't know about shouting at each other and bloodbaths.
Well, again, you know, when we use certain words, I know we can kind of listen to how people talk, and people use certain words because that's their kind of frame of reference for describing something. Again, when we hear bad news or when we hear news in the truth media, some people say, you know, we have to be careful of fear and stuff like that. But personally, myself and Steve have got to the stage where we just see it as information. We don't see it as positive or negative. We just see it as information. And if people's perception of information that they're reading is fear, well, then they should stop reading it. That's what kind of I say.
One thing does occur to me, and I think through this whole the People's Voice adventure, I think one thing that has been absolutely brilliant to learn, and that is how easy it is to put together a radio show, to put together a television show, to put together a YouTube article. And I think perhaps in a way that is how the People's Voice will succeed, that people will learn how easy these things are to do for themselves.
Yeah, totally. Well, we keep saying it on OYM that we're happy to, you know, teach people about what we've done. I mean, we're learning anyway, as it is. We've been learning over the last 3.5 years. But rather than actually give a man a fish, we'd prefer to show them how to fish. Because if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for the day. If you show him how to fish, he'll eat every day. So we're not going to do it for them, but we'll actually teach them how to do it. We're happy to do that, and we've said that on the show before. If people want to learn how to set up their own radio shows, because we need more radio shows globally. We need people out there doing it. Steve?
I'm sorry, Alan, but we just had a notice in there on the chat from Crown Copyright, and he just says, Alan, sounds like Alan is controlled opposition.
Yeah, I am. Listen, I'm just going for the Nobel Peace Prize. You know, if Obama can get it by killing people, I must have a chance in getting it somewhere, you know. But, Miles, go ahead. You were saying about Sky. You there? Miles? Hello? Is he there?
Oh, Miles is still there, yeah.
Okay.
Miles, I don't know if you can hear us, maybe your mic may not be on.
Yeah. Well, we're not hearing you there, Miles. If you want to come in.
Okay, we'll just continue anyway.
Yeah, we'll just continue. Miles, if you can't hear us, come in. Maybe he's just having audio problems down his end there. But Tony, you want to? Oh, hang on, you've got more questions there. Go ahead.
I just have a comment here from Chris. Chris is wondering. Again, this is for everybody, and I mean, I don't know. I'll just ask it as it is. Is it just possible that all conspiracy info is disinformation to distract people who wake up and keep us away from the real agenda that we have not yet discovered?
Sorry, I didn't get in there. Yeah, the Irwin's issue as you mentioned earlier, is about the barrel of lies is yes, we are controlled, and they want the disinformation, they want the conspiracy things to get us afraid, to shut our heart centers down, so we then don't keep our antenna up to pay attention to what's going on. And I'm as guilty as hell as producing the Basis series, which is a lot of it is fear-based, horror, and oh my God, and the PDF I sent earlier about mind hacking is, I know the people haven't read it, but the point is, yes, it is terrible. If you do have your house on fire, do you simply sort of ignore it? The bottom line is that we have a predator, and we are all not going to survive if we don't pay attention to what's happening and sort out the problem. And the way to sort out the problem is to carefully, concisely, and quietly, without fear, analyze what that problem is. And the problem can then be solved much better than running around screaming, oh my God, all day long.
Exactly.
And that's what we've got to do.
Yeah,
that's why they want to keep everybody confused. This is the point.
Yeah.
If, 1 minute sugar's good for you, the next minute it's bad for you, and 1 minute you need statins, the next minute you need this and that and the other. They confuse the life out of people. But when you understand what's really the bedrock of the situation, you can finally put all of the conspiracy, which incidentally is conspire IC, you can put all of the conspiracy stuff behind you, because there's no good jumping up and down shouting about fracking, right, when we've got free energy. The excuse for fracking is to get energy. We've got free energy, so we don't need fracking. So all of the, oh my God, poisons situation is all distraction. And that's my point.
Yes, I absolutely. But the point is that the media is pushing the fracking. The people on board, the people who are putting their money in, are getting a 40% return on this stuff. A 40% return on your money on fracking. So it's being pushed by the lying disinfo media as the solution to all our woes, because they will not entertain the physics, they will not entertain the science behind 0 point energy. It just will not get even mentioned on the BBC on mainstream.
This
and
is the point.
So, I mean, you're talking something. I mean, I've witnessed the weather engineering here in Wiltshire. This weather is being engineered by man, but the point is that 0 point energy is such a resource of energy that our consciousness, our human state of mind, is so immature and dangerous that our access to 0 point energy is being blocked because we are so dangerous as a species, because we are killing ourselves. We're not sorting the basic elephant in the room issue of who's really in control and how that control is now spread globally. And until we sort out that lethal killer, that predator that can destroy us, if that 0 point energy gets into the hands of the enemy, which will destroy every single one of us if we don't stop it, that's the point. That creature will then be far more dangerous to other species.
The point is that the people have actually got that 0 point energy, have already got it. It's the industrial military complex. They've already weaponized it. They've already built craft. We've already got a breakaway civilization going on.
Yes, absolutely. The creature which, Sharon, this is coming from the data which has now been released by John Irwin. And I have to be very careful how I state some of this. John Irwin conducted 3 days. I conducted total of 4 days with Sean Stone. He's given me permission to say this now. Last weekend, and what we've got to understand is all of us are extraterrestrial races. And that's why Ireland, for instance, has been so heavily oppressed, because the database within the genetics of the Irish, not the Irish, but those people who were alert. I don't want to go into the whole history of the whole thing, but the point is a predator exists and it looks just like us. The details of that predator, the details of that predator is that it is operating and pulling the strings of the conspiracy side of things, and it's now operating technologies like mind hacking, which I uncovered at Sky Television and was told about at the BBC by BBC staff, is infiltrating through our consciousness through the broadcasting system, which is why Ireland had the pirate stations, which were lasted so long, which is why you're on the air, open your mind, okay? That's why you exist. But the point is that predator is listing everywhere, and we must understand that we've got to deal with that situation in a way that will not inform the very enemy that is set to kill us.
Okay, Sharon, you have a comment you want to make there?
Wow. I don't even know where to begin. Miles, interesting you're in Wiltshire. I was born in Wiltshire. So, lovely, beautiful county. I'm not convinced about a predator. We're human beings. They're human beings. We're all human beings. There's predatory behaviours, I believe, within the human consciousness and within the human reality. But, again, I feel I'm not going to give my power to somebody who is a predator, who is stalking, who is what? You know, yeah, all right, chase me then if you want to play that game. But I just kind of don't really go along with the predator, the mind control stuff. I mean, you know, a long time ago, Bob Marley did say none but ourselves can free our minds. And I think it is up to us to free our minds and to keep them free, and from perhaps all kinds of machinations from all sorts of areas.
Well, Sharon, can I just touch base on that? Can I just ask you what you're basing your opinion on? What research you have done to come to that conclusion? The reason why I say that is because obviously Miles and Tony and myself and Steve have interviewed a hell of a lot of people who know a hell of a lot. And I can definitely say there is something going on. And what I say to people always is when people give their opinion, which is fine, they're allowed to give their opinion, I normally say, well, what are you basing that opinion on? So I'm just curious, you know, what research have you done to say that you don't believe that exists?
Well, I mean, there is within the human experience different psychological states, and some of these psychological states are very much like Miles describes, narcissistic personality disorder, which is also known as psychic vampirism. Now, this is about energy exchange, and going back to some perhaps what Tony says, you know, about the exchange of energy, free energy, and kind of quantum physics stuff. What do I base my opinions on? Well, life. My experiences, you know.
Yeah, but to be honest with you, I could say the same thing. I'm just opening this up as a bit of a devil's advocate. But when you speak to people like Barry Trower, who's an expert in microwave warfare, and he confirms that the technology that he's come across and he knows is out there can easily be controlled and manipulated using this advanced technology. Then you know, I mean, we might think we're doing things because we've made the choice to do it. But according to Barry, they can make you do things that you wouldn't even realise you're doing.
Oh my goodness, yes, I do so agree with that.
You know?
And indeed the microwaving. I mean, I was at Greenham Common, and we were microwaved at Greenham Common. So yes, they've done all sorts of things. Of course they have.
Well, I'm glad, Sharon, that you've said that, because that's the base that goes into the Puppet Master base in Peasmore, just up the road. Yeah,
you see, I've been to Wembley Arena, and I've seen Paul McKenna in there. 2,000 people in Wembley Arena, and I think it was it was the arena, either the arena or the conference centre. And people say, well, you can't be controlled. Well, I seen a 6-foot odd brickie dancing to the Sugar Plum Fairy in a pink tutu. And I'm pretty sure he's not the kind of guy that would actually go and do that voluntarily, you know, but he did it because Paul McKenna used hypnosis, and hypnosis is only one method that they can use to control people. And we have talked about this on the show, and the technology that's out there. And for myself and Steve, and I'm sure Miles and yourself, Sharon and Tony, again, it depends how deep you go down the rabbit hole. Because the deeper you go down, the more sinister it gets, and the more you realise what technology and what facilities they have to manipulate and control people, and things that we probably, the three of us, five of us, have yet to discover what they can do, and that's the sinister side. But
what they plan to do is on that document, and Professor Dr. Robert Duncan's published a couple of books on that, Soul Catcher. They intend full control of all conscious thought of everything on this planet.
Yeah.
They've got the technology to do it.
Yeah. I'm sure they have. And if they haven't, they'll have it soon anyway. But I'm sure they have already. And that's the worrying part. And we need to, Steve, this is one of the words that you use and you put on Facebook and you say to people, what do you say? Cognitive
dissonance. Yeah.
And do you want to go into detail as to what that is?
Well, in my opinion, it's just if you present someone with some information that kind of goes against their grain, then, rather than kind of go, that's interesting, I'll have a look into that, they'll fight you every step of the way. They're not open to new information, especially if it's, if they've built their belief system and their own opinion rock solid, and then you're challenging their belief system, and if what you're saying is going to maybe rock their world, they don't want to know, and they'll fight you every step of the way.
I mean, I was looking at Mark Pazio before, I think that's how he pronounced his name, before we went live. It was earlier today. I was looking at his show, and he was talking about, say, the law of gravity. He said there's laws out there that are just fundamental to nature, nothing got to do with mankind. And he said the law of gravity, he said, if somebody said, I don't believe in the law of gravity, and he jumped off a cliff, do you think the law of gravity will say, well, he doesn't believe in me, so he's not going to hurt himself? It's going to be irrelevant. And at the end of the day, so just because you don't believe something doesn't mean it's not real. And we have to really start, saying to people, look, wake up, start doing the research, because a lot of people, don't take the time and energy. It's all about time and energy. And this is what Mark is saying. I have to say, he did a great, I will be sending out on the web links. He did a great conference, and he talked all about this, about energy and taking the time to understand it and who we are, what we are, and what's going on. And a lot of people don't want to spend the time. And unfortunately, until you spend the time and study it and understand what's going on, they can see little bits of the jigsaw and they can talk to you about the bits of the jigsaw, but they can't put it all together to see what's going on because their conditioned belief system doesn't allow them to do that. And that's, again, I'm sidetracking a little bit, but that was very interesting. I will be sending that link out to the registered users. But I want to pass off to Tony because there is a subject that we want to talk about, Tony. Do you want to touch base on what you want to talk about there, Tony?
No. Well, I mean, there's a couple of things that have been mentioned since that I'd love to touch base on. I've put in the chat room there to our conversation, guys, a link that backs up exactly what Miles is saying. There is indeed a predatory race of people from another star system. Do you think an African looks anything like a Chinaman? Well, no, quite frankly. Well, there you go. That's an example of people from one star system and people from another. And the same goes for Nordics, the same goes for Europeans, the same goes for Chinese. And, there are different genetic material. If you look at the DNA on an incredibly detailed level, you'll find that not only is the DNA not local to this area of space, it's not actually anywhere near it's not from our planet. This whole Darwinian rubbish that we've been programmed with in school was complete Darwinian rubbish. The Newtonian physics we were programmed with in school is rubbish. It's actually Russellian science, which is the science of light and harmonics.
Can I just back you up on that Darwinian theory? I mean, you have to remember, the people have to remember that that's why they call it Darwin's theory of evolution, because it's only a theory. It's a pile of poo. And if you go and do the research, you'll realise exactly that it is, nothing more than a theory.
Yeah, and it's a disproved.
Well, I know, Tony, the thing about the Darwin thing is it's relevant on a scale, on a relative scale. It's a bit like the surface of a sphere appears flat, depending on where you're on the sphere and how big you are. Darwin's stuff worked to a certain extent, but how it worked was never properly analysed. How the intention of the animals changed their form, how they morphogenically changed their morphogenic fields using their intention or the necessary need arose, so they changed. That was never properly explored. And on one level, Darwin is right, but on a very small perspective scale. And again, it's a matter of perspective and a matter of scale when you look at a given problem. It's not Pooh. In other words, it's not Pooh in the sense that the whole thing's wrong. Within the scale of his observation, there were certain things which were logical and correct. But to apply that to life, the universe, and everything is Pooh. It's the application of the theory which is wrong.
I completely concur and I agree. And one example of that is survival of the fittest. And I mean, that's the program that the human race is being put through right now, that only the fittest are going to survive. You're not the descendant of your parents, you're the ascendant, you're the best of the best. And that's the point. And we are evolving through that kind of a process, Miles. You're absolutely correct. So certain aspects of it can be applied to the model, but other aspects, like we came from apes and we climbed out the trees or out the ocean, is rubbish.
Well, we certainly did not come from apes. All of us are extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional beings from different places. What those places are, where they were, and who brought us here, those are different questions. But we are not a single human being of any race on this planet is derived from this planet.
And there's more and more evidence coming out to actually prove that.
It's in our DNA.
Well, I mean, for instance, the fact that white people, that don't like the sun. Even the Daily Mail mentioned this, for crying out loud, that because we get burned by the sun means that we couldn't possibly have evolved here. I mean, that was in the Daily Mail. I mean, you can't get any more God's personal word from the universe than that. Yeah,
I mean, it's interesting. Well, maybe that's going to happen. We're going to get more and more exposure. But I'm just going to go back over to Tony there. Tony, because you wanted to talk about something, because we're just obviously keeping tracking the time there. But you go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really the main point of what's actually happened here, because backtracking to an earlier part of the conversation where I had this beautiful experience of the People's Voice, really, nice and great and totally unexpected and appreciated and all the rest of it. And I wrote back that the next day to the People's Voice, thanking them for their hospitality and their warm welcome. Anyway, so that post was published the following day, but since the publication of that post, somebody came back to me and they said, "What have you been doing?" And I said, "What do you mean, what have I been doing?" And they said, "Well, apparently you were thrown out of the People's Voice building because you entered into there with a bunch of police informers." And I'm like, "What the bloody hell are you talking about? Where did you get this information?" And anyway, cutting a long story short, it turns out this was posted on Mark Window's own Facebook. Now, since then, of course, I've followed this lead up and I've gone, hang on a minute, what's going on here? Everything was great. We had coffee with the people, we had a good walk round, a good session, a good chat, everything was great. We left with David Icke in the same elevator as him. We were chatting all the way down type thing. And then we went to our other meeting, which is why the reason that we were in the building in the first place. But the point is, a certain person, which it now turns out to be Mark Windows, had been starting up a smear campaign on the people that I was with and myself. And it also turns out that Mark Windows was an agent who was basically involved in destroying Seven's case in the first place. Now, as I said earlier, we had gone up there just on the off chance, and then we'd also ended up having a chat with David, and as I said earlier, we also presented Seven's case. So it's after the event, this information Mark Windows himself has put onto the Facebook, which incidentally he's taken down now, but we've got screenshots of it, so we've got the proof. But the situation was that he deliberately tried to attack us for being in the building and falsely claimed that we were thrown out of the building, which is utter rubbish. We spent another hour and a half in that building in meetings in the lobby, and then we also went for a meal and then came back and had another meeting in the building. So what he was saying was completely false.
But why would you say that, Tony?
Well, that was my question, Alan. Why on earth, after that great session, would you say that? Well, it turns out, having researched more into Mark Windows, it turns out that Mark was intrinsically implicated, and he deliberately tried to trash the entire case. So much so that if you go to Synchronicity and you look at the People's Voice post, you'll find the information that you're looking for on there.
So
because if you click,
who is Mark Windows? What's his background?
This is what's come out about him. This is why people need to go and look for themselves. And this is precisely why he's attacked us in the first place. Because he knows how close he is, or he knows how close we are to the truth. And that's what's become evident. I wouldn't have batted an eyelid. I wouldn't have looked twice at the guy unless he'd have gone, you're a police informant and you're here to try and, discredit or do something. I don't even know what he thinks I was there trying to do. But the point of the matter is, if you go and look at the Farrell report, top left-hand side, you'll find a rebuttal report from both Tony Farrell and Seven, and 90% of it is concerning Mark Windows' disinformation attempts, and that there are pages and pages and pages in this report. Dates, times, incidents, proof,
sorry, Tony. Which alter of Mark Windows were you dealing with?
Well, I wouldn't know the difference. The one that typed on Facebook.
Well, the message was in the question.
I know, I understood it. Which personality you're dealing with is multiple personalities. Yes, that doesn't surprise me.
Well, that should tell you a lot then about Mark Windows, what you just said.
It did, and so did the report.
So, Tony and Miles, do you think that Mark has David's ear, and Mark is not protecting David, but he's kind of not giving David the information or feeding him the wrong information? He's acting as some kind of filter, and David, unaware, is trusting in Mark when, he shouldn't really be doing that.
Exactly.
I think you've got a situation where there are too many people there who have not taken on board the seriousness of what's happening. They're, in some respects, children struggling in a slightly overfilled bathtub. But at the same time, there are some very, very serious people involved which are manipulating the situation. Right now, we've got the first independent online media source, that's the People's Voice, has come on the air, and this is a direct result of the failure of the established media. The BBC, Sky has been fully infiltrated. I made my points clear about that a while back, the mind hacking going on there. We're in a lot of trouble, and we've got to make things like the People's Voice work. And we've got to recognize the serious nature that we are now faced with. We are the last generation which is just about aware of a problem. Not all of us are fully aware. The problem is so huge we maybe never will be aware. But this is it. We are the last people who are adult, got resources to do something in some way or other to actually fix this problem. We may get a second generation out of this before things get out of hand. They're already attacking the new children who are growing up. Sharon, you've been at that base. You've been there right at the front line where the population management control systems, Project Puppet Master and more were being tested.
That's the new technology.
We've got to wake up and smell a coffee in this.
That's the new technology I think Sharon mentioned, where they have this machine where it sends a high frequency and it heats you up and you have to get out of the way. Is that the one you're talking about, Sharon?
No, it's not. The kind of microwave technology Sharon was, that was mind control. That's for 30, 40 years old.
Hang on, Sharon's just sat on something there, I think. Sharon.
Sorry, I was trying to, sorry. The machines, I mean, there's all sorts of mind control technology, isn't there? I mean, there's television, there's machines that send microwaves. I mean, yes, it's silly to say those don't exist, and I didn't say that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
No.
but Sharon, the point of the whole group of people that were attracted and corralled into the Greenham Common place was so you could be tested on. That was the purpose of it. They didn't want men. They wanted women like yourself. You were a specific targeted demographic group for being tested on at that base. That's why you were there. You were brought there.
Indeed. I mean, we're all tested in all sorts of different ways. I mean, I believe that it was my choice to be there at the time.
Well, that's the point. Exactly. You believe it was your choice. Yeah.
And again, it goes back to the mind control, and we perceive that we're actually making our own choices when we possibly might not be making our own choices. And, you know, this is something, as you say, that we've had Barry Trower on talking about it. And we get loads of contacts from people who are targeted, TIs, targeted individuals, who are constantly, on a daily basis, they're affected by a number of, you know, attacks by these, by the powers to be, for want of a better word. In all different shapes.
If you want a solution to that, Solaris Blue Raven in the States has successfully fought against the use of the technology known as synthetic telepathy, voice to skull technology. She's won that battle, and she's exposed it. And this is technology which is now being sold and used and to abuse people. I mean, one of the people in the Amash group of witnesses has successfully been diagnosed. I don't know if it's it. I think she's full of implants. She is being targeted, but that technology is no longer needed anymore because they're able to read our biogenic field like an IP address.
That's right. Well, if you know, I don't know whether you know, Miles, about the Burns doctor in America. We were going to get them on, and for whatever reason we couldn't get them on, but they actually hack into their field. I forget the name of the field now. It's gone off the top of my head, but they could hack in. Basically, the idea is if you ring them up and you give them your date of birth, where you live, and where you were born, within half an hour of you getting burned, they can hack into your energy field, and they can actually start the healing process with a burn. And thousands of people have done this. And if you go onto YouTube and type in Burns Doctor, you'll find this out. And no, I haven't tried it.
It's psychotronics or radionics, which is remote healing.
Yeah.
But that technology can be accessed to detect whether you're thinking certain things. That's what the Google thought maps are. That type of technology is being applied. This is developing very quickly, and the point is, as with 0 point energy, if it's available to the predator, it's lights out for all of us, and that's one reason why the 0 point energy is being held back. It's being held back, my understanding, is by the ETs. Again, who do you want to call the ETs? But I think Sharon's experience, I mean, I'd love to talk to you about things maybe at some other time, but that's where you were put in there at the start. You're a wonderful example of the start of that stuff and the use of it in England, which was developed with other agencies during the war.
Well, listen. Yeah, Tony.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say. Well, some of the first areas that was actually deployed was on. Was it the American embassy from Russia? A long time ago, they were giving all the embassy officials cancer because they were beaming signals into the embassies. But
that's right.
And now we're doing it to the police force using their own radio transmitters called Tetra.
That's right.
Exactly.
And Barry, we were talking. We had Barry on last week. We did a pre-record with Barry, and Barry said that in 1 week he had 7 UK police officers in his house over the week concerned about the Tetra system.
Absolutely.
So that's worrying. But listen, again, you know, what I'd like to do is, the whole idea was speaking about controlled opposition on the show tonight. So what I'd like to do for the next 15 minutes is to talk about, 15, 20 minutes, is just to talk about what we need to look out for, what people need to be aware of regarding controlled opposition. And, you know, any tips and hints and tips in your experience and in what you've picked up to pass on to people to make them aware? Because what the last thing people want to do is to be sucked in and be gullible over something. I mean, from Open Your Mind point of view, Open Your Mind has always been myself and Steve. And yes, we have worked with other groups and other people, but fundamentally OYM has always been myself and Steve. And if there was a third person in the room, I think we'd recognise them. I think we'd see them. And that's the way we've always kept it. And because we've always kept it with just me and Steve and nobody else, we've been quite lucky in a way, Steve. I think we've been
more than lucky. I think we've seen other internet
groups falling apart,
if you like, falling apart and infighting. But you're right. It's just been the two of us, and I think that works.
Yeah. So that's just how kind of we approach it. We just kind of stay together and we do what we do. And this is what I was saying with people setting up their own radio stations and doing it themselves, or just either themselves or get somebody else who'll be a co-host with you and work together and do it that way, because it's easy to infiltrate a group, but it's very hard to infiltrate two people.
Absolutely.
So give us your take on it, Tony.
It's even harder to infiltrate one person.
Well, it is, but sometimes you have to work together with people. So if you get a like-minded person who's on the same path as you, then that's great. And then just the smaller the numbers, the better. I do believe that when you start dealing with groups of people, that's when, because people are fundamentally going to disagree with things based on their belief and based on their knowledge and their path or their level of knowledge in certain areas. And these disagreements between each other causes the conflict. So if you can kind of minimize the amount of people you're dealing with, it's like being in a band. If you're in a band of 3 people, it's going to be a lot smoother and easier to manage than in a band of 10 people. And I'm speaking from experience and being a musician. That I've played in 3-piece bands and I've played in 10-piece bands, and to be honest with you, it's a lot easier as a 3-piece band. So if you're going to do something, try and keep it small. But again, sorry, Tony, I'll go over to you and you give us your words of wisdom.
Yeah, well, as I say, I've spent a long time looking into lots of different subjects and lots of different situations. One of the main things that I've learned is when you understand that we've got things like free energy, and then you see somebody like the person aforementioned trying to create fear over all of the fallout, all of the symptoms of the, let's say, fracking. And all you really need to know is, number one, there must be a purpose to that fracking at the end of the day, otherwise they wouldn't want to do it. And number two, the fact that we've got free energy undermines any real need for fracking for energy. So everything else is a misguided situation. We either have free energy, which I personally didn't believe that we had until I really studied it and then wrote a book on it, which you know.
Yeah.
And then went on to meet literally hundreds of people and conduct, hundreds of interviews with different people that have had different experiences with the same sorts of things. So when you understand we have free energy, the simple situation is there is no reason whatsoever that what they're telling you that we need fracking. Now, the only symptom for fracking is polluted water supply. So the only objective that can possibly be the real objective behind fracking is to poison the water supply.
Exactly.
So now tell the people that we don't need to do it and the real reason, and you've solved the problem. Because everybody will go, no, I'm not buying it anymore. We know why you're doing it. It's no good bullshitting us. We've got free energy. We are not going to allow our water supply to be polluted, because that is the ultimate goal of fracking.
Okay, and obviously I do get concerned when I hear people in the truth movement purely talking about fear without offering a solution. We do, come on the show and we talk about things that are going on, but at the end of the show, we always try and look at the positive side and look at a solution, because there's no point giving the problem without a solution, in all honesty. And I think it's important.
I agree. We've got to, if there's a problem, let's look at the problem, then see what kind of solutions we come up with. But you're not going to get the solutions till you analyse the problem And maybe the problem isn't analyzable initially, but just keep working at it. And I think the whole thing is to individuals, small groups, get together, just talk quietly, swap information, build your own zero-point energy or resonant energy type systems, and just communicate offline quietly together, come up with solutions, and bring joy and happiness into your heart, and don't respond to the fear. Check the problem, don't ignore the problem, but do find solutions and do it with joy in your heart.
Definitely.
This is the point. We always had the solutions. This is what we've got to remember. All the solutions for free energy have always been there. So then we just need to ask, well, why the flipping heck have we got nuclear power plants then?
Exactly.
Well, what's the action?
Well, the chances are it's all money, but I just want to go over to Sharon there. Sharon, your kind of tips on staying positive and, watching out for people that control their position, what would you do?
Well, it is the same, and I do agree with Miles. You go joyfully. It's a choice. It's a choice between fear or love. It's a choice to be happy. You look at things objectively. You stay in your own power. Realize that you are a powerful individual as one person. Watch out for Pied Pipers. They're always playing a tune, trying to get your money, trying to get your rats, trying to get your kids. So I think it is important. Watch out for Pied Pipers. And I think also it doesn't matter how much your heart is involved, still give yourself permission to walk away. You don't have to explain. You can just walk away, find your own space, find your own equilibrium, and then you will be in a much better position to recognise the truth, I think.
Definitely. I think you have to find people that you resonate with also. I mean, I know I've mentioned this before from a psychological point of view, but I think it's worth saying again that, it's broken up into, the world is kind of broken up into, when you're dealing with people, 33%, 33%, 33%. 33% of people will like you, 33% of people won't like you, and 33% of people will be sitting on the fence. Now, the people that don't like you will never like you, no matter what you do. And the people sitting on the fence, well, it's up to them to make their own decision. So just focus on the 33% of people that like you and resonate with you. And don't worry about the other 66%, because people that suffer from insecurity or self-esteem want to be friends with everybody. And it's an impossibility because we have so many personalities out there. We just won't get on with everybody. So just be yourself, like yourself, love yourself. Keep your energy high. Be positive. Yeah. Stay away from fear. And if there's anything that you do that is fear or negative, just keep away from it. Walk away from it. Whether that's information or whether that's people, just stay away from them, because that's just, you don't want them dragging you down. And that's what you have to do. I think you have to stand in your own power.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. But at some point, somebody's going to have to stand somewhere and deal with the bad side of what's going on. Otherwise, we can't keep running from a problem.
No, I totally agree. But it's people probably like ourselves who understand the psychology in it, and we can deal with the fear because we don't see it as such. We just see it as information, and we see these people for what they are.
Sorry, I'm not advocating. This is one of the crucial things. It's the fear elimination program. That's to say, fear does not, like worrying, it does not fruitfully use any of your mental or psychic or other resources. Fear does not. It's knowing that putting your hand into the flame is not fear. It just says, if you do that, you burn your hand. That's not fear. It's information.
Yeah, knowledge.
Just get rid of the fear, deal with the information, and sort the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, the stronger you become and the more you understand what's going on in the system, the more confident you'll be able to deal with it when it does, raise its head.
Totally.
See, they're all tongue-tied. They can't say anything. They're amazed.
I'm waiting for everybody else to stop speaking.
Brilliant. All right. Well, listen, guys. Tony, is there we have about 5 or 10 minutes left. So, is there any other information that you want to tell us about regarding, obviously, controlled opposition, and obviously you want to tell us about the big event that you're going to have in April?
Absolutely. Well, read the controlled opposition. I suppose it's just watch this space. I mean, we're constantly releasing information and new, shall we say, things that have come out about the world around us, and science, physics, and people, and information on all different scales on synchronicity. So please, people, keep checking into synchronicity for breaking news and information, and especially reference the event as well. Well, I mean, just for one example, we have invited David Icke. That invite is still open, should he wish to take it up. Whether or not he does is irrelevant, because we've got some of the most, if not the most incredible speakers from all over the world on many topics, from ufology, free energy. We've even got a princess coming from Japan, and we've got Alfred Weber, Jordan Maxwell's also putting in an appearance, and various other people. So some incredible people are coming to this event in April, and it is going to be the New Humanity event. In other words, it's like fracking. We're not putting up with it anymore. We're going to take our own destinies into our own hands, and we're going to change it. It's that simple, like we've said tonight. When you step into your own power, you can be lied to all you like. You can just laugh at them and walk off because you know the truth.
Exactly.
So,
sorry, Tony. I can't. That's new age twaddle. I'm sorry. I can't. We have to. We're going to be wiped out if we don't deal with it. We can't just walk away in cloud cuckoo land. We have to see.
That's what the event is.
The oil
dealing with
I know, but yes, but the oil companies are going to go in there and frack. They're going to do whatever they're going to do. The politicians who are bought and owned by this predator are going to ignore all our wishes, or with whatever we do. So we've got to somehow get a solution to this problem. And I believe it's not going to stop the people drilling into the water and polluting it.
But Miles, just give me a couple of seconds on this, okay?
Yeah,
we've already got the solution. It just needs the information to get to the people.
It's applying that problem. It's application of the technology.
Hence the event where we can tell lots more people. It's going to be live streamed
but
over the planet.
My issue again is we're just preaching to the choir, and the People's Voice, or a station like it, or the means of transmitting that information, has to appeal to the mind-controlled matrix zombies out there, i.e. mainstream. We can talk to ourselves and feel very comfortable about all that, and we can be positive, positive light and all the rest of it. It ain't going to stop the vast majority of the ordinary people out there from getting informed and being able to be empowered. And that's why we've got to have a successful People's Voice type mainstream appealing transmission medium. And that is why ultimately that's going to have to work somehow.
Which comes into communication. We need to communicate with as many people as possible, as quick as possible, in order to give people the solutions so that they understand the difference between the bullshit and the truth. Pardon my French, Alan.
That's okay. Well, I do think, the trouble is with David is that, maybe he started off with the right intention, but the problem is, David really went to whether you believe in the whole reptilian thing, it's up to individuals to decide themselves. But a lot of people, when they seen him talking about that stuff, got an instant turn off. So the fact that he set up the TPV, and people know him from the Wogan interviews and stuff like that, is he kind of fighting an uphill battle, really?
Well, he might be, but if he's got tens of thousands of people that are following his work, and he's going to come along and bring tens and thousands of pairs of ears, that's very good. Because
one person said who did a talk, and they said, I remember them saying, he said, "There's no point me up here talking to everybody in the audience who's awake." He said, "What's the point in that? All you people are awake." He said, "I want an audience full of people who aren't awake."
Well, that's exactly my point, yeah. But the point is that so far, most of what David Icke has on his website is the New World Order agenda. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the issue.
Okay.
He is controlled opposition. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Sharon, you want to come in there?
I think as far as the People's Voice goes specifically, I think it is just as well for people to remember that we do have a voice. We all have a voice. We can read and write. We have a written voice. We can speak. And I think that it's this kind of thing, somebody saying, oh, I'll be the people's voice. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that silly voice. But that's where we give our sovereignty away. That's where we give our power away. I do know that there is, I haven't really spoken about it publicly before, but I do know that there is a People's Voice Challenge where a bunch of alternative raggle-taggle people are taking the next month to get together a television station of our very own, perhaps. So that's an initiative that might be useful for people to look at. But certainly the people's voice is our voice. We are the people, and that's the way I feel about it.
I totally...
that's good, but we have to have a secure delivery system which is successful, and the People's Voice didn't have that.
No, but if that was planned. I mean, I'm not sure that the attacks were from outside. I'm not sure why the videos were removed from YouTube. I suspect it may be to do with plagiarism and copyright issues myself.
Well, I voiced very strongly and fought tooth and nail about the issues about the transmission, the audio from the studio, lots of things like that. It was flatly, blatantly not even taken on board. When you have the primary source of delivery failing and nobody's doing anything about it, there's somebody else in charge.
Well,
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think when it comes to setting up systems and setting up technology, people should be allocated the job who know how to do it rather than leave it in the hands to somebody who doesn't. I've come across that.
There are very good people doing that. That's the point. And there were very good people in there who knew. There were very, very good, very hard-working people, let's make it very clear, who were doing working their guts off. But when it came to the delivery of it to the to the people, it just wasn't there.
So whose fault is that?
Nobody wanted to do anything about it.
Okay.
And that is a major failing, and I voiced that very strongly on that regard.
Well, then something like that would need to be dealt with. All right, guys. Well, listen, we've come to the end of the interview. I mean, a big thank you to Tony, Sharon, and Miles for coming on and talking to us about the controlled opposition and everything else. As we say that there's always an opportunity there. We're more than welcome to have David or somebody from TPV to come on and talk to us about it and what their point of view, because we like looking at both sides of the biscuit, as we say. And everybody is allowed to have an opinion and put their feelings across. But Tony and Sharon and Miles, thank you very much for coming on the show. I'm going to pass you over to Steve, and Steve's going to just do the roundup with you there and get all your details. Over to you, Steve.
Okay, again, I want to echo Alan's words as well. I mean, I've sat here and I've learned lots. I haven't really said lots, but I have learned a lot. It's always a pleasure speaking to Tony and Miles and Sharon. I haven't spoke with you before, but you've given us a lot of information and a bit of an insight into your life and your time there at TPV as well. But if you can just maybe go from Tony to Sharon, this is just the way you appear on the Skype window here. We have Tony, we have Sharon, we have Miles. So in that order, if you could just give us the listeners details of how to see more of your videos or more of your work or your website, that'd be great. Tony?
Absolutely. Thank you, Steve. Well, basically, synchronicity.com, SYNCRENICITY, synchronicity.com is the website. We've got breaking news and all the updated information there. There's also a link to my other website, which hosts the book Blueprints of Cosmic Consciousness, which has got lots of information about tons and tons of subjects and links them all together so that people can be empowered from their own point of view in understanding this huge picture that we've got. So that's my details. Thank you.
And have you got a YouTube channel as well, Tony?
We have, but it can all be located under Synchronicity, basically. So if anybody goes there, the links are there.
Good stuff. And Sharon?
I write a blog, Mother Damnable Returns. I think you can just pretty much Google Mother Damnable Returns and you'll get the blog. I've also written just one piece, but I've written one piece for Synchronicity, so I can be contacted there as well, I believe.
Okay, can you just repeat that blog name again, Sharon?
Oh, I'm sorry. Mother Damnable Returns.
Mother Damnable.
Yes, indeed. That
now
damnable woman.
I'm now going to ask you, can you spell that for me, please?
D-A-M for mother, N for no, A-B-L-E. Damnable.
Good stuff. No, sorry, I could hear you, but I just couldn't visualise the spelling. I'm getting too over this. And Miles?
Yeah, the Basis project is something I've been doing for almost 20 years now. We've hopefully going to have a transhumanization conference, probably in Marlborough, possibly in early August, about transhumanization issues. The Basis project is available on thebasisproject.org, which is a website which hopefully will be up shortly, and undergroundvideouk.com. The latest thing we've done is Basis 34, which is the Sean Stone interviewing John Irwin, where he has now released the secrets of the 16 and those data banks which were found in Egypt, the 6 data banks by the ETs, which were left by the gods, which humanity has been exposed to that information, and that will be available hopefully as a major trilogy of films starring Sean Stone in due course, but it's early days. The information that has been released will not be released until the films are in circulation. So that's the bottom line there.
Brilliant.
Okay, thanks very much, guys. And back to Alan.
Excellent. That's great stuff. I look forward to that because I know John has brilliant information there. Okay, listen, guys, just stay with us there for a minute. We're going to go off to a musical break and we'll be back after this.
Join UnitedWeStrike.com radio on the second Saturday of every month for our live international radio marathon. Don't buy, don't comply, ask why.
That's right, don't buy, don't comply, ask why. That's next Saturday. And Alan and I will be doing our slot at 7, more than likely 7 to 7:30 in the PM. A little tune there from Fleetwood Mac, Little Lies. I just pulled that one out. I'm not saying anyone was telling any lies. It's just a song I just pulled out of my collection.
Yeah, 80s collection, I think. Yeah. Okay, right. Well, that was brilliant to have Tony and Sharon and Miles on, and great information. Again, we were supposed to have the Irish Democratic Party on, but for legal reasons they couldn't come on. But they did say that they will come on when they have their little legal issues sorted out. So we'll hopefully have them on and have a chat with them. Now, coming up next after us at 9 p.m. on the People's Internet Radio will be a candidate for United States Senate TN. Brenda Leonard will come on the show and she will discuss her run for the US Senate. So that's coming up at 9 o'clock on the People's Internet Radio. Stay tuned for that. Now, next week, our guest will be Andy Thomas. Now, we had Andy on the show. Now, I think it was, time goes so fast these days. I think it was 2011, the last time we had Andy on the show.
And Andy, a long time ago.
And Andy used to be on Edge Media TV, and he has done a lot. He has loads and loads. He's a prolific author, and he has so many books out. And he does loads of seminars and talks, and really, really nice guy. Great information, and really, really good to have him back on and to catch up what he's doing. And when I was talking to Andy on email, he was saying, well, even the last time he was on the show, so much has changed globally in the world that he's going to have loads of information. So we look forward to Andy coming on, and that would be brilliant. And there's a few other guests. People have been emailing us and saying, can this person come on? Can that person come on? We are trying to get certain people on, but we send the email out, but sometimes we just don't get anything back. Nothing we can do about that. We do try pull a few strings as well as best we can, but at the end of the day, there's not much we can do if they decide that they don't want to come on the show. So, but we will obviously try and endeavour to try and get as many people on the show of interesting and varied information as we always try and do on OYM, and for you guys to listen to it and then form your own opinion based on the information that you hear. That's really, the aim of the game and what we do. What do you have planned for the week, Steve? Anything interesting?
I'm going to Wine, Women and Song.
Again?
Yeah.
You do that every week.
I do, yeah. No.
Does the wife know about that?
Jeez, no, don't tell her.
Oh, okay, no problem.
No,
keep it quiet, just between you and me then, huh?
Yeah, just between me and you and everyone on the chat room there. We're going to have a pre pub crawl. There we go.
A pre-pub call. Say
That's
that.
the one, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'll put my teeth back in for that. Yeah, 2 and 6 on the website saying he wonder how Alan Watt is doing. Well, I'm sure he's doing fine. We've asked Alan to come on a long time ago. He was planning to come on, and then all of a sudden we feel somebody put a spanner in the works and, had his ear, and Alan Watt decided not to come on the show. And, that's what happens, unfortunately.
His loss.
His loss, and unfortunately that's what happens. Has he been... He hasn't been arrested yet. Who, Alan Watt? I don't think so. I've never heard him being... I don't think he's been arrested. I don't know. I know about Santos. We talked about Santos, but he was released after 72 hours, so we heard about that.
Isn't it amazing? I mean, Santos, all the good work he does, he's arrested. And I just read something during the week, and I've been hearing it before. Mr. Snowden, I haven't really been paying too much attention about him and what he's doing. I believe if he's uncovering truth and letting the mass making everyone aware of it, well, I think he's doing a good job. But he's still walking around. Edward Snowden, that's his name, isn't it?
Oh, well, I just watched the German interview that he did. It was the first interview that he's done.
I heard about that, yeah.
And it was German TV. And it was interesting,
Yeah. But then again, you'd wonder, is he part of it? Is he a shill as well?
Well, this is the thing, what is truth and what is...
Because most people, as I say,
controlled opposition.
Most people who have come out and done something like what he's done, they're no longer around.
Yeah.
They get taken now fairly quick.
Well, look, our job and everybody's job in the truth movement is to wake people up. Wake the sheeple up as best we can. That's all we can do and carry on doing. And when you have a moral conscience to do that, then you get driven to do it. You get driven to speak to people. And, myself and Steve are doing that on a regular basis. We don't just finish OYM and then leave it for another week. I mean, we're out there constantly talking to people, waking people up, showing them the evidence. But I tell you what we've asked, and we're hoping, fingers crossed, he has agreed, we just have to find out when we can get him on, is the chap Dr. Michael Rapiccioli, who was the guy who was the chair of the World Health Organization report that says Wi-Fi is safe when it wasn't. Well, he had a partner called Dr. George Carlo, and they split up over Dr. George giving out to Dr. Rapiccioli for taking favours and what have you. Well, Dr. George Carlo has agreed to come on the show. So that's going to be a phenomenal guest on, Steve, to have him on.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, okay.
What more can I say? I'm looking forward to it already.
Are you playing X's and O's there? Okay.
No, Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons. Okay. Well, we have a minute to go. Okay, tune in to People's Internet Radio. We have another show on after this. Not ourselves, but I'm sure it's going to be very interesting. For myself, Alan James, have a good week. Stay safe, and we'll catch you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, and Shane just says there, France has banned Wi-Fi in school this week. No, hadn't heard that. We did hear something that it was on the cards. But no, that's actually good news, and that will give me a lot more leverage with my sons and my daughter's school as well. So, okay, so anyway, we'll do it all again next week for myself, Steve and George. We've got 30 seconds to go. I don't have to be in a rush anywhere.
Okay.
It's 30 seconds.
Okay.
But stay tuned. Stay tuned to the People's Internet Radio for more good information. And sure, we'll do it all again next week. Take care, and to everyone in the chat room who gave us questions, thank you very much. And that's it. That's our lot.
Yeah,
good night.
A big thank you to the people in the chat room and the people that are listening to the show, because without you guys, it just...
We'd be talking to ourselves.
We would be talking to ourselves, and, there is a medical condition out there for that. Okay, bye-bye.
Open your mind.